Hello, Koerri.
How you doing, Elishai? Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. The first question comes from an anonymous Jeffrey Elementary student. Would you put more swings, huge slides, and monkey bars at the parks? Would you make gyms for kids and adults? Kids want to work out too. And would you also put more firefighters in the station?
So I definitely would love to add more swings, huge slides, as big as we could get them, monkey bars, and especially exercise equipment for people in the public, right? You look at places like Venice Beach, they call it Muscle Beach, because they have equipment that's accessible. It doesn't necessarily have to be weights, but there's things that you can implement that give people the opportunity to work out without having to have a gym membership. So I definitely would love to expand all of our parks and make sure all of our parks have the things that they need, including park benches, trash receptacles, water fountains as well. Not only do I think the parks that should we be adding more to the parks that we have currently, but I think we need to continue to properly upkeep and renovate all of our parks as well, right? We have a lot of great parks, Washington Park, Lincoln Park, tons of parks all over the city that need some extra love, some extra care, So not only do I want to, continue to add things like the swings, like the huge slides, but we also need to renovate our basketball courts, our tennis courts, our skate parks, and things of that nature. So I definitely really want to push to beautify all of our parks and make sure that everyone has access to the things that they need. And as far as firefighters are concerned, I want to make sure that we have all of the personnel possible that we need to make sure that people, when they need them, they'll be there for them.
This is an anonymous KUSD high school student. What are your thoughts on the Uptown area? And do you have any plans to do anything to that area?
So Uptown, I love Uptown. I don't live Uptown currently, but I have lived in Uptown previously. I know people that live Uptown. Uptown is a cornerstone of our society, of our community here in Kenosha, right? At one point, Uptown was looked at the same level as our downtown area, right? The Chrysler site was right in the Uptown area. We still have Jockey in the Uptown area. And there's a lot of amazing homes in the area. A lot of people don't really understand or get to see the beauty of some of the homes and a lot of the historic architecture that is in the Uptown area. A lot of that is the last kind of breath of the history of Kenosha that's left. And we saw in 2020 that they took a big brunt of the damage and turmoil that happened in 2020. And speaking to people in the community, they want their voices to be heard more, right? And I feel that all citizens should have some form of a say in what happens in their community. And when we're seeing massive expansion in the Uptown area, and we're hearing things from the people that don't necessarily coincide with what they want, with what they're receiving, I think it's time to give a little bit more power back to the people. So not only is it a historic area, but it's also an area that people are able to utilize to step up, right? There's always been affordable housing in the Uptown area, and people have been able to, whether they're from Kenosha or they migrate to Kenosha, to utilize the space to be able to make their way up and maybe expand out into another area or buy a home in the area that's not too cost effective, and utilize that to gain equity and to move up in life and to continue to grow as an individual. And I think we need to keep that in Uptown. So I propose that we start a community land trust in the Uptown area. Now, what that will do, it will give power back to the people in the community. It'll allow people to pool their resources, pool their equity, and decide as a community what they want to see in the community, right? When we have a lot of vacant spaces, vacant lots in the Uptown area, that community land trust could pool their equity together, purchase that land, and not allow an outside corporation or company to come in and put whatever they want there. It'll give power back to the Uptown residents, and it'll help empower Kenoshans to get more involved. A lot of people in the Uptown area are disillusioned and kind of don't want to involve themselves in politics because everything that they've seen, not just in the past 3 years, but in the past 10, 20, 30 years of living in Kenosha. So I think it's time to empower the people in Uptown as a start by giving them a community land trust and give them back the power of their area.
Do you support the Menominee and Seminole Indian tribes plan to develop a gambling casino in Kenosha? Do you think a casino would be a good idea for our community?
So I will say that I can't say that I support the plan, but I will say that I don't oppose the plan. Now, the way things have been handled with disseminating the information to the public, one thing, providing an 80-plus page document of detailing what the plan is going to be the day before, the council decided to vote on what was going to happen with that, really took a lot of people in the community for a loop. Luckily, we have things like artificial intelligence, chat GPT. We could use that to break down the 80 pages into a digestible form. But even with that, it's, a lot of people are upset on how the situation was handled. Also, there are plenty of benefits that we could see from the casino, but we're not going to be retaining ownership as the city, right? I feel that the moves that we make as a city, we need to make sure that they're all equitable for the citizens of Kenosha, right? Possibly we'll make millions of dollars, but we also have to think about location and where the money is going to be coming from, right? So if the major people that are going to be utilizing the casino are people within the city, then we would really just be taking money from our citizens to, in turn, potentially make money, right? So I feel that we should do something, I'm not saying that we shouldn't have a casino, but I feel like there's things that we could do that would be a lot more equitable for the community. I suggest, since we are a city, a big city that's continuing to grow, to have some form of rec center or an expo center, right? We're located right between Milwaukee and Chicago. People, my entire life growing up, would say we're a bedroom community. You can live in Kenosha and you can go to Chicago or Milwaukee. But what we should be doing is we should be trying to draw people from Chicago, draw people from Milwaukee to our center, to the epicenter of Kenosha, right? And make money that way. And then if we get a casino after that, if people want to gamble, I'm not saying people shouldn't be able to. But there is also, within 45 minutes north and south of us, we already have casinos. So what we don't have is a rec center where we can have major shows, major players come in, and be able to control the equity and really have all of the gains go directly to the city, not, being passed through someone else, and then we get what they decide to give us.
What would you do to prepare and incentivize Kenosha residents to create small businesses? How do you plan to prepare the workforce in terms of training so that they would want to stay? What types of jobs creation would you promote and invest in?
So youth retention is the first point of my whole campaign. Without our youth, we're not going to be able to survive as a city, right? We need taxpayers. We need a tax base, and the youth are the next tax base. But to retain them, we have to do things that they want us to do, right? No one is going to stay in Kenosha if it doesn't appeal to them. And as we see, a lot of the decisions that have been made in the past 20 to 30 years, honestly, my entire upbringing, haven't really been geared towards targeting youth and youth retention, right? So what we need to do is we need to make sure that we're always investing in the future of our children. That means making sure that schools are properly funded. If the city needs to step in to make sure schools aren't closing, then the city needs to have a better partnership with our school district. We also have to have more pilot programs to make sure that we're incentivizing trades so we can have a pipeline directly from our high schools directly into the trades, right? We have a lot of public works in the city. We should be able to utilize people learning trades in high school and give them a direct pipeline into city work. That way they'll be able to get a good job. Also, we need to invest in people that are going to our great colleges and universities and making sure that they don't leave as well, right? There's a lot of people that come into Kenosha for a great education and then leave. We need to make Kenosha a place where you come for an education, but the city is just so fun, it's so vibrant, so great, and they're there to help our young people and our young entrepreneurs that they won't leave, right? They won't be forced to because there will be a greater opportunity somewhere else. So we need to invest in incubators and accelerators, right? We need to incubate those startups, but we also need to make it conducive and attractive for those people that are trying to accelerate their programs that match our city's vision to come and stay in the city. And a lot of young people would love things like that, in my opinion.
How would you utilize smart city technology and innovation to improve city services, enhance local news media communication, as well as make the city more efficient? Overall, what would a healthy Kenosha look like?
So a healthy Kenosha is a city that understands the benefits of technology and the transparency and the security that technology can provide, right? One thing that I'm hitting home a lot with my campaign is utilizing blockchain technology. Now with blockchain technology, it allows you to encrypt data. It allows verification in a manner where you're going to know that you're secure, right? We can utilize blockchain technology to develop a city application, for example, right? A lot of people aren't going to go to the local access. A lot of people aren't listening to the radio. Most people are on their cell phones. If we want to reach the people, if we want to make sure people are informed, we have to hit them where they are. And it's on those devices that are in their pockets or right in front of their faces most of the time. So I say we develop a city application that's ran by blockchain technology. Everyone will be able to verify their identity through the blockchain. It will be secure, it will be encrypted. That way you don't have to worry about fraud or scammers. Everything will be secured from the blockchain. That way we can utilize that to then make services easier and more accessible, right? If you need to pay your property taxes, you can do it through that city app that verifies you through the blockchain. You want to pay a bill, whatever it may be, verify it through the blockchain. You want to take the city bus, you have that application that verifies you through the blockchain, right? Now, all of these services can utilize that, but then we can also use that to send out notifications, right? A lot of people ask me, what can we do about alternate parking, right? Utilizing technology, we have a better way to forecast when there is going to be snowstorms or winter emergencies, right? So we can utilize that, send out a mass message through the application that everyone will have access to, and that way they'll have up-to-date information when there's alternate parking, when there's not alternate parking, and people don't have to feel that they're being criminalized or attacked or being preyed upon because they have nowhere to park during the day. There's endless possibilities, and that's just with blockchain. We just did the deal with Sci-Fi Network to bring high-speed internet to the city, so we need to harness that high-speed internet, utilize blockchain for security, for safety, and connectivity. To add to that, just one more thing. We also do have Kenosha Community Media as well. So we have a media apparatus. Through that application, we can also make sure that we have up-to-date media updates, right? We have a news broadcast. We could platform a morning show or whatever it may be to keep people engaged and keep people informed all through that application. You have your media, you have your services, and you have your access to the public services as well.
How would you rebuild security forces and communities so that they can trust each other and work together?
So as far as rebuild, I don't think we necessarily need to rebuild. I think we need a different approach from leadership, right? The distrust is not going to dissipate unless we're actively doing things to make it dissipate, right? Photo ops are cool, going out into the public and, shop with the cop and all of that. We need to continue to do things like that. Community engagement is paramount, but we need the people that don't have the trust in the police to trust the police, right? Taking people that already have trust in the police out to, experience that, it's going to solidify, their feelings. But what we need to do is change the psyche of those that don't have the trust in the police. So we need more community engagement from that aspect. But also, we need to make our environment not as hostile. In my opinion, just being boots on the ground since 2020, going out, documenting things, even up to, a couple months ago, there was a major incident that happened in the city where people reached out to me and they wanted to know what was going on. And then, being out there, I was met with aggression, I'm just documenting, providing transparency of the situation and trying to inform the people of what's happening, right? And if I'm being met with aggression, how do other people feel, right? Also, I'll just be completely transparent about it. In the neighborhood where I live on 54th, right in the heart of the city, right? At times it feels like I live in an occupied area, There's giant Suburbans that drive around with blacked out, tinted windows, high-powered rifles in their vehicles, bulletproof vests, and they're not pulling over and playing with kids or saying hello. They're just kind of creeping through the neighborhood. When you pull in the driveway, they're kind of creeping by, checking you out, seeing who you are, but not really, doing anything to make you feel safe. And if it's for security, why is it that people don't feel safe with their presence? So we have to really look at that and really ask ourselves the tough questions. What can we do? Should we be deploying these people into neighborhoods in the manner that we are? Should we be more transparent? And I would say doing things like releasing the Michael Bell bullet would really help that situation.
Do you have any plans for affordable housing in the future?
Yes, so I definitely do. So one thing would be the community land trust, like we talked about earlier in Uptown. That would give the power back to the residents in the neighborhood to control the rent in the properties and not allow businesses to come in to up the rent in certain areas or allow out-of-state landlords to, have properties that they're overcharging for and not maintaining the property, lowering the equity for the neighbors around them, right? But also there's ways that the city can step up to provide as well. So one thing that was mentioned or that occurred a few months ago was Uline stepped up and, they feel that we need more housing in the area. They want more employees at Uline, and we need housing to be able to supplement that. So they made a donation of $3 million that the city has to match to develop housing. So what I would say is we need to take them up on their offer, but make sure when we're developing the properties that we receive the $3 million for and the $3 million that our taxpayers are going to put up to develop these properties, that the properties are going to Kenoshans, right? So I suggest that we build our own properties. We build a complex that's owned by the city, managed by the city, maintained by the city. It will create jobs for people within the city, but it'll also provide housing in the city, and then also we'll be able to dictate how much the rent will be. And we can utilize that as a way to, again, give people a step up. We maintain rent at a certain level. You're able to save your money for whatever period of time that we decide. Of course, we're gonna have to come together and we're gonna have to fine tune it to make sure that it works and it works for everyone, but we have to do something. And I feel if the city owns these properties, it doesn't have to be a lot, but has some sort of, control over what happens in terms of beautification. We'll be able to keep it maintained, provide jobs that way, but again, give people a step up in affordable housing that they won't have to worry about, property values went up or property values went down, they're gonna raise my rent or whatever it may be. They'll be secure and they'll be comfortable and they'll be taken care of and they'll be able to get themselves out of the scenario that they may be in and, better their own lives.
How do you guarantee that the little progress made in racial relations, inclusion, and reduction of social gaps does not slide back in dangerous reversals as the DEI controversy is amplified?
I would say it shouldn't be that tough, right? But it is, because it's unfortunate that we live in a society where we have to have, this written guideline for people not to treat people bad, right? There shouldn't have to be guidelines of equitable inclusion, right? Everyone should just have access and everyone should have a chance. Unfortunately, that's not the world that we live in. There's a lot of things a lot of hurdles that we need to still get over, but to get over those hurdles, we actually have to have the conversation, right? We have to have a conversation in a manner that's not talking down to people. We have to have a conversation in a manner of understanding and wanting to hear people and genuinely wanting to hear people and actually make adjustments. So I can only speak from my own life experience. I've dealt with tons of scenarios where you think, it's like, was it based off of my merits or my talents, or was it something that, why I didn't get the position or whatever it may be? I think having those conversations, being honest, but also, again, not coddling people. I can only speak for myself, but I don't want a position because of a of what it symbolizes, right? Especially members of the Black community. I'll just be honest, there's been a lot of symbolism and, when it comes to providing equity, but it hasn't really been genuine equity, right? It's like, you can direct this movie, we're gonna make you the manager, right? But then you look at everybody else around them and, you'll see the checked boxes, but outside of the checked boxes, it's business as usual. We need genuine partnerships, and we need to bring in companies and individuals that genuinely want to bring that change, right? To have the city grow, we have to bring partners into the city that want to develop the city into a place that provides that equity, that diversity, that inclusion, without having to tell them to do so.
There is, unfortunately, a common expression voiced by the youth: there's nothing to do here, which isn't true. How would you change that rhetoric within our overall community? What makes Kenosha special?
So yeah, good old Kenoware is what they called it when I was in high school. And I think people may even still call it that. We have to embrace what Kenosha is great at, and that's the arts. Throughout it all, the arts were always there, right? We had the auto industry here. When that went to the wayside, the arts were still here. The arts were there to supplement them when we had Chrysler, and we had the arts before Chrysler. This is the birthplace of Orson Welles. This is the birthplace of Mark Ruffalo, Al Molinaro, Betsy Ade. The list goes on and on and on. Every generation we have talent that just seeps out of the fabric of Kenosha, and we need to harness our talent. That's one thing that I'm hearing from young people across the board. What are we gonna do about the arts? What are we gonna do to make it where kids wanna stay here, where young people wanna stay in the city? It's just an idea. It's one thing that I'm thinking of on top of the host of other things, but I think we should have some sort of major festival. And I'm talking on par with South by Southwest, where we're able to harness the arts, harness the talent, and harness technology and bring people from all over the country, all over the world, onto Lake Michigan, in between Milwaukee and Chicago, for the best local and national talent that anyone can ever experience. People need a step up out of Kenosha as well. Our talent, it's inevitable that they have to go and see the world, but we want them to come back. And having that annual thing that will at least bring them to the city, that will also help the economy, help our local businesses, is just one attraction that we could have that will keep young people in the city and feel that they are actually recognized and appealed to when it comes to the decision making in the city.
In short, please state your top 3 priorities. What impact do you think you can make within the community in Kenosha? What strikes you as the big issue that you want to take up when you become mayor?
So my 3 top priorities, number 1 is youth retention, and they all kind of go together in a way. That's one thing about my entire campaign. You'll see I'm painting a picture of what I want to do, the picture of what Kenosha could be, and it involves everyone in every aspect. But youth retention is at the core. Also, affordable and equitable housing, right? Not just affordable housing, but the housing needs to be equitable as well. People need programs for home ownership that's more accessible, and people need to be able to utilize that equity to have the lifestyle that our parents had before us, our grandparents had before us here in Kenosha, with only, working at Chrysler, right? We need to be able to have that. But then also, we need to future-proof our industries for the future. We need jobs of tomorrow. We need companies of tomorrow, those companies that are growing now, that can be big, and those companies that are already big that are looking to expand. As we've seen, Microsoft is moving into the area. Kenosha it's a wonderful location based on the greatest body of fresh water on the planet. We have to recognize that it's valuable. We have to recognize that people want what we have, and we can guide our future based off of the wants and needs of other people to uplift everyone in our community.
This is the final question, and it's from another anonymous KOSD high school student. What makes you suitable for the mayor position in the city? What makes you good as a leader?
So I would say what makes me a suitable mayor is, and I suppose a good leader is, I'm not one to seek power. This is really the first position or anything that I've ever involved myself in where I was seeking power, but it's also not for myself. It's for the vision of everyone in Kenosha. I think we need leadership that really is just transparent and really is speaking to the people based off of the wants and the needs of the people. You know, I was yearning for something like that when I was young, and I know young people today are yearning for something like that as well. But it's not just young people, it's older generations as well. You know, I talk to people that are well older than I am, and they're saying we need young blood, we need fresh ideas, we need a change. That's what I bring to the table. You know, I've involved myself in the community as much as I could for the past, 3 years or so, but I've lived here my entire life. I've experienced what it is to be a Kenosha. I know what the good and the bad of being a Kenosha. I know the fun things that you can do, but I also know that we're, incredibly limited and hindered in a lot of areas. And I do know that as far as city planning, it hasn't really been designed for the next generation coming up. And someone that is in between being young and being old, understanding analog and digital lifestyles, it's time that we have leadership that understands the possibilities and understands where we've come from as well. And that's who I am.
This concludes our mayoral forum at UW Parkside. We, the community of the University of Wisconsin-Parkside, acknowledge with gratitude and humility the First Nations people of Wisconsin, whose original homelands lie within the state. We especially wish to recognize the Ho-Chunk, Miami, and Potawatomi nations for their significant historical and spiritual connections with the Parkside area. Our footsteps do not replace theirs, but rest alongside them. Today, Wisconsin is home to 12 First Nations communities: the Ho-Chunk Nation, the Oneida Nation of Wisconsin, the Menominee Nation, the Forest County Potawatomi Community, the Stockbridge-Munsee Band of the Mohicans, the Brotherton Indian Nation, and 6 Lake Superior bands of the Ojibwe Nation: the Bad River, La Côte Oreille, Lac du Flambeau, Mole Lake Skogan, Red Cliff, and St. Croix bands. The University of Wisconsin-Parkside acknowledges and honors this history and these nations. Special gratitude goes to the mayoral candidates who actively engaged in this forum, namely Andreas Meyer, David Bugdala, Elizabeth Garcia, Koerri Elijah Washington, and Lydia Spotswood. Our thankfulness extends to Professor Alvaro Garcia, Music and Associate Dean of the College of Arts and Humanities, Sound Manager, Instructor Kevin Gray, and Parkside student Liam Simpson for operating the sound and camera work for this forum. Much appreciation to Dr. Simone Aritona Akindes, the Professor of Political Science and Director of International Studies at UW Parkside, who played a crucial role in refining the questions posed by members of the Kenosha community. Special recognition goes to the Executive Board of Parkside Student Government, who initiated and brought this concept to life, as well as selecting the elementary and high school questions. Acknowledgement to Kenosha filmmaker Evan Parshall, owner and editor of the 88s on YouTube, who provided the exterior drone footage shots of the Rita Talent Pickens Center for Arts and Humanities, as well as Parkside's natural environment. Musical intro number Evanston Civic Band March was provided by the UWP Wind Ensemble and Community Band, led by Dr. Laura Rexroth. The musical outro number, Theme for Ariana, Second Movement, was composed by Parkside student Joey Bellotti and led by Professor Alvaro Garcia. Also, thank you to the staff at the University of Wisconsin-Parkside who allowed this important forum to take place. Last, but certainly not least, thanks to all the others involved and the Kenosha citizens who submitted these insightful questions. Your invaluable contributions were indispensable to the success of this endeavor. Thank you.